Live at First Baptist Church in Quincy, Illinois. KHQA, working for you.
That are joining us tonight here in the audience of KHQA. I want to start by saying thank you to the Lord for blessing us to be able to share this debate with you tonight. We expect to hear some very good information, rousing information that will help us to make Quincy a better place than it has been and to make it all that it has the potential to become. So we're grateful to our candidates tonight. I want to say welcome back again to RAJAH Maples for being with us tonight and to let you know that we are all working together to make sure that Quincy will be all that it can be. And we give God praise for each and every one of you. Again, welcome tonight.
Thank you, Pastor Jones, and thank you, everyone, for joining us from home. We are live at the First Baptist Church in Quincy, where we are getting ready to get underway with the winners of last month's primary election, Democrat Nora Baldner and Republican Mike Troup. We are going to be broadcasting for an hour with a question-answer session. We're going to have some advertising, some commercial breaks, and then we're going to turn it over to the web for the last 25 minutes in social media. So thank you. Without further ado, we are going to begin to do the opening statements of both candidates. And again, we want to remind you at home that even though this election is going to take place April 6th, that tomorrow is the first day of early voting in Adams County. People can either mail in their ballots or there is a ballot box right outside the Adams County Courthouse. So even though that election is a little more than a month away, people can start voting tomorrow. So without further ado, let's get this forum underway. Thank you, Pastor Jones.
Bless you.
Thank you. So first we're going to begin with opening statements, and we are going to begin with Republican Mike Troup.
RAJAH and the Reverend Dr. Jones, I appreciate you hosting us tonight, and First Baptist Church members, KHQA, RAJAH, and the crew that's here. Appreciate getting everything set up for us. Hello, I'm Mike Troup. I'm running as the Republican nominee for the mayor of Quincy. Quincy has strong assets and a strong history. We remain a building materials and supply hub, a home to strong educational institutions, home to significant industrial companies, and we have become a medical destination center. Quincy is the Gem City. COVID has hurt families and businesses across the U.S. and here in Quincy. As your mayor, my plan is to lead Quincy through the COVID recovery. Quincy has a bright future. I have the experience. 34 years of local government service, 22 years as a small business owner, 15 years as the chief financial officer. These experiences provide me with the skills to lead Quincy back to being a thriving community. I'm asking for your vote to become the next mayor of Quincy. Thank you.
And now Democrat Nora Baldner.
Thank you, RAJAH. Thank you, KHQA, for this opportunity. Thank you, Dr. Jones, for welcoming us into your church for the second time. Thank you to the voters in the room. Thank you for being here, and thank you for everyone who is watching on television at home. You have a very important decision to make. You need to understand the two people who stand before you and what they will do for Quincy. Choose carefully and choose thoughtfully. How do we treat each other? How do we treat other people? How do we treat employees at City Hall, our most vulnerable populations, our most diverse populations, our everyday workers, our job creators, and people who disagree with us on issues? I know you don't want to do things the way they've always been done before. You want change and hope for the future, and I do too. Together we will seek answers and find solutions. Together we will be fiscally conservative and manage the money that you pay in taxes with efficiency, accountability, and responsibility. Together we will give voice to the voiceless and bring a diverse coalition to the table to make decisions. We'll work to recover from last year's losses. We'll retain and recruit jobs that provide a good living. We'll invest in our future with development, and growth. I ask for your vote and promise to work hard every day for our community.
Thank you, both candidates. Now we begin with questions. We will begin. You each have 2 minutes to answer. At the very end, you'll have closing statements where if you would like to rebuttal anything that was said, you will have an opportunity to do so, and we will go in reverse order so that everyone has a chance to go first. So first, we're going to start with Mike Troup, and we're going to begin with the first question. How do you think the city of Quincy handled the pandemic when it first started, which was a year ago this week, in terms of making changes, as it continued, and now?
Yeah, no, thank you, Rajah. This was new to everybody, not just here in Quincy, throughout the state, throughout the country. Overall, I think with how our state elected office holders went ahead and closed down everything in the state, I think that was a prudent thing to do. And because we didn't know the seriousness, we knew how it was spreading, we needed to learn more. You had CDC, you had various health agencies across the country giving conflicting information. So it was a confusing time, a scary time for a lot of people. I think since then, with how Quincy reacted to the pandemic, keeping as many businesses open as we can, I think it's helped protect the economy locally. I think it's saved numerous jobs from being lost and numerous businesses from being forced to go out of business. So overall, as unique a disaster that this was, I think Quincy has handled the COVID pandemic better than most communities throughout the state.
So I think that we have learned a lot, and it's interesting that today was the day 1 year ago that the CDC declared a pandemic. Remember that day? Remember where we were? What were you thinking? It was a scary time. I don't think we responded properly as a community. That's where I disagree. We didn't have clear direction on what to do, so it ended up with more than 100 of our own friends and neighbors who lost their lives to COVID. The good news is, it is amazing how we've turned it around. The vaccination site at Oakley Lindsay Center is first in the state, and it is a hallmark of how this community can pull together once it decides to pull together. We have another opportunity, though. We can fix the hurt and the divisiveness that we encountered over last summer coming up this summer. We're going to have fairs and festivals again, and it's time to figure out how we can treat each other properly and care for each other, masking or no masking, distance or no distance. We have a huge opportunity this summer to make amends with each other and respond correctly to this pandemic.
Thank you both. Next question, we will begin with Nora Baldner answering first. What do you think is needed to A, help small businesses recover from the pandemic, and B, spur more economic development as the community moves forward?
So just today, the Biden administration signed a $1.9 trillion America Rescue Plan. I know there will be money coming to Quincy, and it's up to us to determine how that will be distributed and how we can help businesses who did suffer those losses. The interesting thing is we did have small businesses suffer. We had other businesses that thrived. We had grocery stores, furniture stores, other sectors in our community did very well. So helping the small businesses, I would like to see a full-time grant writer in the city of Quincy and writing grants to help businesses. I know that we learned a lot about businesses and how they're run, and the Quincy Public Library has a good resource for helping businesses to get over the losses and to understand how to move forward and to position themselves so that they can weather this storm if it were to ever happen again. Attracting economic development to this area, we do have a lot of sectors and a lot of plans in place. The 45 by 30 is the first real marketing attempt that we're going to make across the country, and it's going to be very targeted. We've got digital platforms, we've got geo-targeting, we've got a lot of things that are coming down the pike to advertise Quincy to other areas around the country. And I would like to serve as an ambassador and as first salesperson of Quincy and go out and be able to attract more economy and more economic development in Quincy. Also, the riverfront is a huge factor in economic development.
Thank you. You know, the business owners that I know, and I myself being a 22-year business owner, you know, based here in Quincy, I don't see many business owners asking the government for advice. I think what we really need to see is take the restrictions off of businesses. The owners, the management of each of the businesses, they know what they need. I do think we need to work with our smallest businesses to meet with them, to go through with Greta, and to use the other SPUR chapters and other Chamber of Commerce. Where there is a need, I think we need to sit down and talk to the business owners and see what we can do. The best thing I believe the government can do is eliminate the restrictions. We have to be safe about it, but let the businesses operate. That, I think, is the biggest thing that we can do. When it comes to filling the needs or helping our other current businesses, it's clear that the lack of qualified people to fill the jobs that are open today, they're not here in town. Quincy must change what we've done historically. We must attract new people to move here, reside here, become our neighbors, become our co-workers. That is going to help boost the economy. We need to reopen the tourism and have some attractions, and I agree, by having the different parades, the different events that we typically had that we missed this last year, we've got to reopen that. It has to be done in a safe manner. But I think the people are ready for that. Everybody's tired of being pent up, stuck at home, stuck, in a private situation. They want to get out. They want to see their friends, families. They want to go to some activities. So I think those are the kinds of basic initial changes that I would like to see, implemented.
Thank you. And this time Mike Troup will begin to answer the question first. There have been several reports of people leaving urban areas such as New York City and California for less populated areas that have cheaper costs of living. What would you do or initiate to attract those people to live in Quincy, even if they work somewhere else?
Yeah, that's happening right now. Since Quincy, which has been a leader with the pandemic in Illinois and with the vaccines, Quincy is one of, I think, 6 or 7 sites throughout the country that people are traveling to. There's been several flights from Chicago to Quincy full of passengers that are coming here just to get their vaccination. When they're traveling back and forth to the airport and they take a look at it, they say, boy, we've never been here. This is a beautiful community. Okay, they're impressed with what we have. We need to work with those people and tell them, you know what, we also have high-speed internet. We have other amenities that can allow you to buy one of our mansions, live here, work remotely. We have a great quality of life. We've got some of the oldest art festivals and societies in the state. We have tremendous opportunities. We've got strong educational systems, both private and public. This is a home for people that want a quality life, that instead of doing 45 minutes to an hour commute, they'd like to do 10-minute commute. Okay, and I know for those of us that live in Quincy, you're wondering, why does it take you 10 minutes? If I told them it only took them 4, they wouldn't believe me. So I tell them it's 10.
So absolutely, when I've been out meeting people and canvassing neighborhoods and talking with people, you might be surprised how many people are working from home and are going to continue working from home. And their companies are letting them do that. We can attract people to come to the community who can do that. The other Saturday, I was shopping Small Business Saturday. I met a gentleman who grew up in Quincy and came back, and he said, I was only going to stay for maybe 8 to 9 months here. And when he realized how good we have it, he decided to bring a tech company to Quincy. I think our future is tech. I think our future is bright, and I think we've all realized what opportunities we have. Now, to bring people here, to market people here, we do need to get out and tell our story and be able to market Quincy. I know that our Visitors Bureau is ramping up tourism advertising again this summer, and that will help as well. If we can get them here for a few days and stay and see what we're about, we have a better chance of increasing that population.
Nora, you will answer the next question first now. Last month, the Quincy City Council approved a 3-year, $300,000 agreement with the Quincy Area Convention and Visitors Bureau to create a multimedia tourism and marketing campaign. Is that enough? Why or why not?
Well, it's a good start. Is it enough? You'd have to ask Holly Kane that, if she's got a really good handle on that. But it's an excellent start. I know that she has been throttled, for lack of a better term, on being able to advertise around the state during the pandemic. So this is a huge door that is being opened, and it's a great opportunity to advertise what we have here. She's got some great marketing plans. I'm very excited about New Philadelphia joining the National Landmarks and Park Service, because that will tie in with our Dr. Eel's house and our Underground Railroad. We've got so many opportunities for tourism. Again, I'm going to plug the Riverfront development, not only as an economic development tool, but also that could be our biggest tourist attraction, which would satisfy so many needs that we have here in Quincy. So is it enough? It's a really good start, and I think we'll measure the marketing that she is able to do, and then we'll decide if she needs some more.
You know, tourism is a big issue for the community. There's a lot of revenue that helps our small businesses, our restaurants, bars, entertainment. It also will help with that 1% food and beverage tax, which is going to help fuel other benefits and changes, improvements here in the community. I think it's enough money. You know, I hear a lot that, you know, Hannibal spends $1 million a year and they attract about 1 million tourists per year on a non-COVID year. Well, we have an advantage being 30 minutes north of Hannibal. We just have to get those 1 million people. We need to get 10, 20% of them to want to make another trip for a 2-day, 3 days to come up to Quincy. I think to do that, if we focus on other unique features that we have in Quincy. You know, last year in 2020, the nation was talking about Abraham Lincoln, the president. Abraham Lincoln, before he was president, practiced law in Quincy. His building, which is the oldest building around Washington Square, dates pre-Civil War. It's still up and running, okay? He was also huge in the Underground Railroad in freeing the slaves. Those are unique features that make Quincy stand out like Mark Twain does for Hannibal. And if we can package that and have different weekends where, you know, we have some art program, maybe the Quincy Symphony, some other things that we can do 2 or 3 days packaging, coordinating those activities, we're going to be able to get busloads of people to come into Quincy to spend 3 or 4 days here. And I think that's something that can happen based on me talking to travel people in the area. That's something that can happen within a few months.
All right, for those of you watching at home, we are going to take a quick break. If you're tuning in right now, we are going live from the First Baptist Church in Quincy, where we are undergoing a campaign debate and forum with the 2 winners of last month's primary for the city of Quincy, the 2 mayoral candidates, Mike Troup and Nora Baldner, and we will continue right after this.
Live at First Baptist Church in Quincy, Illinois.
Good evening, everyone. I'm RAJAH Maples, coming to you live from the First Baptist Church on North 8th Street in Quincy, where we are having a Quincy mayoral debate as the Quincy residents will decide who will be Quincy's next mayor April 6th. Of course, early voting begins tomorrow, so that's why we're doing it the night before that early voting gets underway. And we'll talk more about that a little bit later. But first, let's proceed as we are also live streaming this on the web and KHQA Facebook page. So let's proceed, and we would love to hear your questions. So you can send those questions direct direct message to KHQA or chime in by putting those questions underneath this Facebook Live on social media. So without further ado, let's get underway. And who do we start with first? I lost track. Okay, all right. So next question. We are talking about the Quincy Riverfront. What role do you think that the Quincy Riverfront should play in the city's future?
The Riverfront Plan, is a tremendous study outlining the development throughout the river from approximately Main Street north. And I think the committee that's worked on that has put in a tremendous amount of time. It's well thought out, and it's a blueprint for us for basically the next 20 years. The city, the county, and the Park District have participated in that plan to develop it, to get it to where it is today. I think in developing that or carrying out the plan, we need to not solely count on city, county, and Park District government entities funding it. We're going to need to look for some private funding. When we do get the replacement bridge, so Main Street Bridge will be replaced with a York Street Bridge entering into Quincy, there will be other dollars for us to redeploy parts of Main Street and that riverfront. By having this plan in place, that gives us the ability to apply for grants when that happens. Now the issue is when they first announced the new bridge, it was a 10-year plan, and I believe that was 4 years ago. We don't know exactly when the state is going to go ahead and build that plan. It may happen in the next 4 years, it may not. Whenever it does happen, we have the blueprints as to what it's going to take to help build out. I do believe that the Park District is going to start working on part of that plan. There's different sections that it can build out, and I think as dollars are available, then parts of that plan will be developed. I think it's another added investment. It's no different than the Klingner Trail or any of the Park District property that we have in the community. It's going to be another place for recreation. It's going to be, this specifically is going to be geared more for families with youth and those activities for the riverfront. But I still personally would like to see a tie-in with something unique. We can go up and down the river and we can see all sorts of river communities, and you have to find something that's going to be unique. And again, in Quincy, I think tying in with Lincoln, with the Underground Railroad, we've got several other historical significant people and activities in our past. I think we need to build off of those to tie that in. No, I don't see that being specifically developed on the river, but it can definitely be built somewhere around Washington Square, where it'd be part of that traffic flow for the people that we're going to attract.
I think this is a singular opportunity that we simply cannot pass up. This is an opportunity for economic development, for tourism, and for quality of life. We want to attract a younger population to Quincy. This would add vitality. Other communities are looking at our riverfront and are envious of the natural resource that we have, and we haven't developed it yet. When the bridge does get moved and the water treatment plant gets elevated, there is going to be an opportunity there to redevelop the riverfront with government and private investment, and it just ticks all the boxes. It is economic development. It's not a luxury for Quincy. It's not something that we have to fix everything else in Quincy first before we can get it. This is going to bring in the tourist population that can boost our sales revenue, that can help our budget. This is so key and so vital that we've been given this very rare opportunity to take advantage of this development, and we've got to act on it. And we've got to act on it responsibly and with accountability. And it's time now to develop the riverfront.
Next question, Nora will answer first. How would you handle and address misinformation that is virally spreading on social media about city affairs and government, or even a pandemic, COVID-19?
That's a $1 million question right there, to handle misinformation. Well, you have to always seek the truth and perpetuate the truth. Thankfully, social media companies are taken to task to label news reports or label articles that they might contain some mistruths in it. That started happening after 2016, after the 2016 election. So those companies are being held accountable, but it's up to each and every one of us to take a break from social media and to get off of that vitriol that we face every single day. How do we communicate from City Hall? In every way possible. We've got to meet people where they're comfortable consuming information. So is it a weekly press conference? Is it a town hall forum once a month, once a week? Is it videos that City Hall can distribute? Is it talking to groups on a regular basis and repeating the information and telling the truth and getting the information out correctly? Is it handing flyers to people in communities that might not have internet access? We've got to make sure that everyone does hear the message, and repetition and frequency is key to getting the truth out. Thankfully, that's in my wheelhouse, and I would be so excited to be able to get communication out from City Hall in the best way and in the way that people can consume it wherever we can meet them.
Honestly, I'm not a fan of social media. It's the only media that is not fact-based, or it doesn't have to be. And I've told people personally, I think if people have to ask this question when I'm going to post something on social media, if I was going to say this about this person or this company, would I tell that person or that company directly? Okay? There is so much on social media that people will say whatever they want to say, and yes, it's one of our rights, it's one of our freedoms, freedom of speech. There's one problem with freedom of speech. You don't have to be factually correct. And when other people read social media, they treat that as the gospel. Okay? We have to ask questions. Is it true? Don't assume that it's true. And how do we go about doing that? It comes with personal responsibility. When it comes to sharing more information and being transparent, with social media or some other tool, as mayor, yes, it's important. You have a weekly meeting with the city council. There's usually news coverage each week with that. I think on bigger issues, you may have a town hall meeting. You may have to have special meetings, news releases, etc. And I think that's just an ongoing basis of keeping the public, keeping the voters informed with all the activities and events happening in the area.
How would you grade gender diversity and inclusion initiatives and opportunities in the Quincy area or the Adams County area?
Okay. Good question. I don't... We've got so much further to go to really be extremely comfortable with where we are. I think in my lifetime in Quincy, I think there's been an improvement. This isn't about the color of your skin. This is not about are you a male or female. There are so many issues that are facing us, and families in Quincy. We've got spousal abuse, we've got child abuse, we've got drug abuse. We've got so many issues. Diversity and inclusion covers each of those. And I think we need to whittle down and subdivide each of them to further define what the problems are. And it comes down, we've got to have respect for one another. If we have respect and we're willing to listen to another point of view, we can get along and we can move forward. But when you're short-sighted, don't want to listen, want to just do whatever you're doing and not pay attention to the impact of those decisions, that's where we have problems. I think a lot of businesses in the area, the school district, I believe the city, they're working on diversity and inclusion, but it even comes with what artwork do you have in your businesses? Is it targeting a particular area, or is it really, open to all sorts of different ideas, okay, and inclusion? There's a lot of work we have to do. A specific grade, I think when you compare us to other communities, we're probably on average, but average isn't good enough, okay? We've got to step it up. We've got great organizations working on that. We need to develop more people, like what we have through the chamber. They have their diversity training. We need to take that, and we need to then start putting those graduates onto different boards and into different organizations to hold each organization more accountable to that. And that's how we're going to improve.
So your question was, how do we grade DEI initiatives in Quincy, correct?
And opportunities.
So I'll take the initiatives first. We have excellent initiatives. The Chamber of Commerce is doing a academy, and it's a very good program. The Human Rights Commission is getting energized and activated to do good work in this community. But we do have a long way to go. It is about your skin color. It is about your gender spectrum. It is about seeing populations in Quincy that are hidden. Reverend Jones gave an excellent sermon in a recent worship service, and he talked about the movie Hidden Figures. But what he was really talking about was the people who are hidden in Quincy. And it really made me stop and think and reflect on what are our narratives, what are our stories, who are our hidden populations in Quincy, and how can we bring them to light? How can we embrace them? How can we tell the stories so that we can respect what we have here in Quincy? We cannot attract a younger population until we recognize differences in color, differences in gender identification. It is very vital that we do that in order to attract a younger population here, but we do have a lot of work to do. There is a long way to go. Step-by-step education, person-to-person education is a good start, and we do have good initiatives. We just need to keep spreading them out, and we do need to recognize our differences, and we need to welcome and include people who are not like us here in Quincy.
Thank you both. And again, you are watching the Quincy Mayoral Debate and Forum going on live at the First Baptist Church on North 8th Street in Quincy, where we are speaking with the two finalists who will become the next mayor of the city of Quincy. We will proceed with our questions, but we want to hear from you at home. What did you want these two candidates to ask? Log on to KHQA.com and KHQA's Facebook page and chime in to put your 2 cents, and we'll be right back.
Debate live at First Baptist Church in Quincy, Illinois.
Welcome back to the First Baptist Church. We are going live from the Quincy Mayoral Forum, where we are asking questions of the final two candidates who are running for the City of Quincy mayor position. And of course, that election is April 6th, but voting is tomorrow. It starts, and we will talk more about that a little bit later. But we'd like to encourage you at home to submit your questions, because we are, believe it or not, we are providing social distance, but these are the questions that our audience have already submitted. So we want to hear from you at home as well. So log on and let us know what you want to hear. But without further ado, let's continue with the questions. And the next question is, jury selection is underway in Minneapolis right now in the George Floyd murder trial, in which former police officer Derek Chauvin is accused in his murder, one of many, countless similar cases that have happened across the country. What's needed to address these cases on both a systemic and social level?
So, police reform, I had a chance recently to talk with our police chief here in Quincy, Chief Copley. And reform is always welcome in any agency and any organization. The state of Illinois is in the forefront of providing that reform through the crime bill that just passed. It needs some work. There are some concerns from local police agencies and the chief himself. The good news is what has come out of the horrible George Floyd killing is that agencies around the state are taking a second look and a deeper look at policies and procedures and how they treat cases like this. Our own police department took 2 years to decide what kind of body cameras that they wanted to use. And it was a very deliberate and a very thorough process. And they have a very good system in place. And I was quite impressed to learn that it did take 2 years to get that reform underway. There are challenges and there are issues, and talking about it and bringing it to light is very important. Open conversations with our own safety agencies here in town are vital to moving reform forward and making sure that we stay a safe community. Unfortunately, both of our fire and police budgets have been cut, so we are working under capacity in our safety agencies here in Quincy currently. And as we head into a summer that people are going to want to get out and get about, that actually, quite frankly, concerns me. So we need to make sure and look at positive reforms and also giving our agencies the resources that they need in order to do the work that they do to keep us safe.
You know, the trial in Minneapolis, that again is a sign that the American judicial system is working. Okay, so we have to look not just for the negatives, but what is working. And again, a police officer, was accused, was arrested for this. Again, in this country, we're innocent until proven guilty. He's going through a trial, they're picking the jury, and they're going to have to process that case in front of that judge and jury. I think that's a sign how the government, and in Minneapolis, they're working the judicial system the way that it's set up. When it comes to public safety here, Quincy as an example, the police officers have not been able to use chokeholds for many years. So Quincy and the police, just by themselves, said, gee, we don't need that kind of forceful interface with a suspect or someone that they're arresting. There's other ways to get them under control, handcuff them, put them in the vehicle, take them to the jail. So we figured that out without any major, incident or negative upheaval like that. We need to applaud the police for that foresight. They did also pick the body cameras. Again, that's required under the Illinois House Bill 3653. But that's really the start of defunding police. That bill for the police does not work for Quincy. As an example, right now, before we can put any amendments to that bill, if you have somebody trespassing on your property in the next several months, you call 911, law enforcement has come out to that property, the police officer no longer, under this bill, can arrest the person and remove them from your property. They could talk to them, they could try to convince them to come off your property, but they can't take any action. Well, what good is that? Why are we protecting the criminal? Why aren't we protecting the owners? Don't we have rights anymore? We've got to make major changes to that Illinois House bill. I'm thrilled to death that our state senator, Jill Tracy, stood up the day the governor signed that and said, this bill is not good for most towns like Quincy, and we're going to have to make some amendments to it. And I know our police chief, and as mayor, I'm going to work with Jill, other state office holders, to make some changes so it fits for Quincy. This bill probably works in Chicago, but it's not for Quincy.
Quincy has been historically dedicated and committed to education and the arts. What do you think is needed to continue that tradition as we move forward during the pandemic and beyond?
That's a great question. And as you know, I'm serving my 6th year on the school board, and so I have intimate knowledge of what's working. One of the things that a lot of people take for granted is this last year with COVID. And when Roy Webb, our superintendent, asked us at the end of last school year, as we plan for reopening in August, what do you want us to make sure we include? Well, several of the board members raised their hand and said, we need to have an option for in-person education, okay? Roy worked with his staff, including the teachers and the union, and we've got buy-in from everybody that yes, the best place to educate our students is in the classroom. We left it up to the parents and the students. Do they want to participate in person learning or do they want to stay remote? We gave them the option. I think it was something like 72% of the students elected to go in person. We proved, again in Illinois and in Quincy, we're one of the largest, what they call LUDA, large unit school district in Illinois. We're one of a few that opened up. We proved that COVID doesn't transfer through our staff or through the students. We're a safe environment. Also, by doing that, we have 60% of our students. We've got 6,700 students in the Quincy Public Schools. 60% of them are eligible for free or reduced meals. If we didn't have school open, we've got a complicated trip that we have to make. How do we feed those children? Okay, by having them in school, it was easy. They get a warm meal. Okay, they were going to school. They feel safe. They're educated, and it's working. So we need to do what's right for our students, and we have tremendous opportunities, both public and parochial or private schools in Quincy. That's a unique feature for our community. You can come to Quincy, go through the elementary schools, high school, college, even get a graduate degree. There aren't many communities that have all that education. We need to continue to build off that. We need to strengthen it. Maybe we'll add new programs at each level. One of the underserved programs that we have in the Quincy Public Schools is in our vocational training. You know, you can learn building trades, you can learn welding, diesel mechanics, construction. Those are jobs that after high school you can start making more than minimum wage. And if you want, after a few years, you could actually have your own business. You want to be a plumber and then you want to have your own plumbing shop, there's a path to do that. You want to do that as an electrician, work for somebody for a few years, and then have your own business, you can do that. And where else can you get as inexpensive education for that than in a public school district? So I think we're doing a lot of good things. I think we need to inform the public, the parents, the students, different career paths that are available to them.
I have an easy answer for how do we support the arts community. We just make sure that Laura Sievert is very happy in Quincy and that she stays in the position in which she is working. The arts community is vibrant here. It is one of our best tourist attractions, and so the arts are excellent and we need to continue to keep bragging about them. One thing I do want to say, we do have an excellent school system, but one thing I just want to clarify is the reason that our school system was able to stay open and reopen and be successful to a point was because of the work that the superintendent and the school board did to make sure that every child wore a mask to school, that they cleaned their desks off, that teachers spent time cleaning their classrooms, that we split classrooms in half so that we could have social distancing. Even doing that, let's be clear, there were teachers and staff who contracted COVID, teachers and staff and students who were quarantined. So they absolutely led the way, and we did stay open, and that is something we can be proud of. But let's not forget, we did have situations where we were calling in substitute teachers, and we kept lowering the requirements for that so that we could have bodies in the classrooms, making sure that our students could go to school. It also pulled back the curtain on our poverty levels in Quincy. That's something that we've got moving forward. We've got to pay attention to our poverty levels. It has impacted us during the pandemic. We see it in schools on a daily basis, and that's something that I'd like to really pay attention to and address as mayor.
Okay, now we're going to start with questions from the audience and social media. And this is from the audience. A concern of the Human Rights Commission is the lack of, quote, teeth the group has. Would you as mayor try to give such groups more power or keep the status quo?
So I think that you have to ask the Human Rights Commission, what they would like to do. And they are telling us that they would like to have more influence and have a stronger direction. I'd love to see a report from the Human Rights Commission at every city council meeting. I think this is, going back to our DEA initiatives in Quincy, this is something that we can bring to the forefront, we can bring out of the shadows, we can ask every single week, how's it going? What are you monitoring? How is our community doing? This is an extremely tangible way that we can get people involved. We can listen to commission members. I know that commission members right now are working diligently to try to figure out a more prominent position in our community. I would happily give that to them, and I think that commission is vitally important to moving us forward. And again, I'd love to hear from them on a more regular basis and give them more direction and listen to what they have to say and the ideas that they want to do moving forward.
Yeah, I don't know what they mean by more teeth, of what they're looking for. I'd like to learn more. I'm open, like I am with any issue, to sit down and have a discussion, see what they're asking, and if it's something that we can do. There's more and more organizations participating in the D&I. We've got the Chamber doing some things, you've got the Human Rights Commission, there's other organizations throughout the community, and even within businesses that are starting to focus on this. The school district, has a group that's what they focus on. There's businesses in town that are focusing. I don't know that it makes sense to have a weekly update at the city council meeting, because I don't know that they meet that often to be able to report back, but to be able to have either a monthly or a quarterly meeting with true update with what the progress is, and then the projection. This is what we're focused for the next quarter or the next month. I think that's a better use of everyone's time, instead of just trying to get prepared each week for an update. The community has other issues. I personally do not think diversity is strictly skin color. I think there's too many other changes depending on the situation that is beyond that. And we need to keep an open mind when we close in and say it's just between skin color. We're making a diversity type of answer that also eliminates the Asian, the Indian, another group of people. And so I think we have to be careful that we don't create other pockets of people that are being discriminated against. We need to keep the doors open, wide, open the communications, training, education, and bring that to the storefront. But granted, this is going to take time. This is not where we're going to have everything fixed, in a year or in 4 years. To me, as long as we have people, we're going to have issues between people. We've got to have the plans and the experience to show when you have this issue, this is what we have to work through to get a solution. Let's have respect for one another. Let's have open communications. Let's agree to work on the problem together, and this community will be better sooner than if we try to do things independently.
This next question came in through KHQA's Facebook page. What is going to be done about the infrastructure, especially crumbling roads?
Yeah. Well, what neighborhood are you talking about? Unfortunately, Quincy has significant roads, and the cold weather that we had just a few weeks ago did nothing, but to help destroy more of them. The current budget, last year and the current budget that's being proposed for this 2021-2022 year will be the single largest infrastructure investment period that the city of Quincy has made in at least 15 years. Okay, it's still, when we get through this construction season, we're still going to have roads, potholes, and infrastructure that we need to repair. We have to look at the funds we have available, the priorities on what we have, what we can fix. Quincy's over 100 years old. Our parts of our infrastructure are over 100 years old. No matter what we do this year, next year, the following year, I can assure you, in 5 years, in 10 years, in 15 years, Quincy is still going to have an infrastructure issue. Okay, the roads with the temperature that we have, the sidewalks with trees, and what happens with the roots taken off, we're going to have to repair sidewalks, We're going to have to repair streets, curbs, sewers, water. That's going to be an ongoing problem. What I think the city has done recently, which I believe is extremely smart, is when we're going to redo the street, let's take it down and let's make sure we fix the sewer there, the water lines, the curbs, the gutters, and let's then put the top asphalt on. Before we did that, what happened? You'd do the top level, and what, 6 weeks, 2 months later, you had a crew out there digging up the brand new asphalt to fix a broken water pipe. So we've learned by those experiences, and we need to keep addressing it.
I think everyone, understands how long it's going to take to fill the backlog of years of neglect that we've had in our infrastructure. When they changed my garbage route on my street, I knew about it because I got a flyer on my doorstep that said, your garbage is going to change from this day to that day. I think all that Quincy residents are asking for is a little bit more communication. They want to know, when is the street going to be shut down for repairs? How long is the estimated time that it's going to take to repair that? And when can they once again get out of their driveway? The complaints that I've heard and the people who have talked to me about this, they know that we're going to have seasonal potholes. They know that the city is working hard and that money has been dedicated to fix things and fix them correctly. But the frustration comes in when your street is shut down and there's a big snowfall and it's already torn up, so no one can plow the roads, and they also can't get the plows in the alleyway, so you're kind of locked in during a big snow, but you have asked many times, when is the street going to be open, and it's not communicated. So a long answer to, first we've got to figure out how to communicate the plan to our residents, and we've got to communicate it well, and if it means a flyer on the door, that's okay. That's how you reach everybody. So I think that the infrastructure problem is, sidewalks, streets, sewers. We got to worry about our water distribution system as well. We've got a lot of challenges coming up because we are an aging town and infrastructure, but communication here is key. I think people would be a lot more understanding and know that their frustration level would go down if they knew when and where the projects were going to happen and how soon they were going to be fixed.
All right, if you are just tuning in, once again, you are listening to the Quincy Mayoral Debate and Forum going on live at the First Baptist Church in Quincy, and we want to make a few announcements. First of all, President Biden is scheduled to make his first address to the nation in about 4 minutes from now at 7 o'clock. So we are going to sign off on television, but we are going to continue this debate online on KHQA.com. You can also watch it in live stream on KHQA's Facebook page. You can watch it on the First Baptist Church Facebook page, and the First Baptist Church also will then put it on its YouTube page. But you know what? We would like to hear from you as we continue this very important debate and forum about the future of the city of Quincy and the two leaders who want that spot. What would you like us to ask them? We are taking questions from the audience. Of course, we are practicing social distance, and we have a lot of people watching at home, online, on television, and on social media. So chime in and let us know what you want us to ask these candidates. But without further ado, we'd like to say goodbye to our television audience, but please, again, log on to KHQA.com to continue the live stream. Just click on that red bar right at the top and watch on Facebook. So thank you, everyone. And without further ado, we are going to turn it over to listen to President Biden address the country for the first time in just a few minutes. Thank you, everyone.
This comes from the
audience. Do you believe that Quincy and the people in the city are inviting and welcoming to people different from themselves? Are racism, sexism, homophobia, transphobia, etc. a serious problem in Quincy?
Great question. I'm glad we had one of our discussions earlier today about this that really addressed for I think an hour and a half, these topics. So Quincy needs to do a better job, okay? When I came back after receiving my MBA from St. Louis Union, I came back and I was engaged and got married. You know, you sense that Quincy back then, so that'd be the early 80s, I felt it was really a cliquish community. So people that have been born and raised here, have their circle of friends, and it doesn't make any difference if somebody bought the house next to you or across the street. You had your circle of friends, and you weren't opening the door, you weren't inviting. Over the years, I know we've become more inviting, we've become more open. I think there's areas of Quincy that are like that, but if you see the new physicians that come into town, they're hanging out with other physicians that help recruit them, that help work there. Then I think about that, and it's not that different. When we had engineers and we were hiring a bunch of engineers in our manufacturing company, the same thing. The engineers hung together. We have to open it up, but that's where I think churches play a tremendous role. When I was a kid, it was unusual if you didn't go to church every Sunday, okay, or most Sundays. Over the years, the last decade or two, the attendance in church has dropped. And I can tell you, we have a variety of churches throughout this community, and I don't know of anyone that has a church that has the door locked. You're welcome for their services. I think there's a benefit to the community by participating, coming to church, participating. Each church has its own organizations, during the week. So it's other activity that they can do. You're just building a bigger family. And when you get your kids in school, you've got the PTOs or PTAs, you got the sports programs, you end up hanging around other parents of what your kids' activities are. And I think all of those things are opening up. We need to be more receptive to that. And when we see somebody moving into the area, or we see somebody new, if we're at some other event, we have to go up and talk to them, make them feel invited. And we're going to get the reward for that. Okay, you're going to have a new friend. You're going to make somebody feel better. It's a simple gesture, but it can be, such a reward.
So to simply answer your question, no. But the good news is that we're talking about it. And we're talking about it on social media and Facebook and YouTube or wherever we are now. I think this has been such an interesting experience for myself, running this campaign and meeting people and talking about issues. And this is the first time in my memory in Quincy that this has been a question in any kind of political race. And I think that's very encouraging that we're actually addressing these issues and saying, why aren't we welcoming? Why do we have this reputation? I do think there are people who are very welcoming in this community. But I think we can do better. But I'm just so excited to be able to talk about this publicly and to bring it to light and to get people engaged and get people involved in making sure that we can be welcoming, more welcoming than we are. Yeah.
What experience do each of you bring to the office?
I think I've got a lot of different experiences. I've got a resume. It's on my website if you want me to go down that. Managing budgets, dealing with people, working with community boards, all of that good stuff. We have repeated that, and that information is available. But what I see the position of mayor being is twofold. One is an ambassador and a spokesperson and a salesperson for Quincy. And the ability to go out and meet with any group and be able to talk with them, listen to what they have to say, and not only in Quincy, but also across the country, and be able to sell Quincy to someone else is vital. I also believe that the mayor's job is to ensure that people who work in City Hall have the resources that they need, that they have the training that they need, that a mayor provides a vision for the city, long-term goals, something like electric buses and building a recycle center? And can we really redevelop the riverfront so that it benefits and is a real economic development tool? Those are the skills I bring. We have excellent people who work in city departments in Quincy, and my job as mayor is to support them, make sure they have the training, make sure they have the resources, and hold them accountable to do the job that they can do well. I would love the opportunity to be ambassador. I would love the opportunity to provide vision and leadership to people who work in City Hall.
You know, I've got proven experience, proven leadership. Been a CFO for over 15 years. I've had my own business for 22 years, operating in 7 states. I've served in over 34 years in various government entities in the local market. On top of that, I've spent a lot of time with various non-for-profit groups to help them, you know, develop and grow in their program services. I've got proven experience, leadership, to start new ventures, to add new services that are affordable for the government entities, and that's what I bring to the office of mayor. The mayor has to first lead the city. We have to have a clear direction of what our priorities are. We have to get buy-in from the aldermen and from the department heads. We then have to perform the work. We have to then also work to represent all people throughout the community and all businesses throughout the community. And a big part of what I'm asking the voters to vote for me is because I think the economy is the key, and to do that we've got to do something that nobody in city government has done before, and that's attract new people to this community with the skills to fill the job openings that we have. That will fuel our economy, and it will help pay for the other services that we're looking at doing in year 2, 3, 4.
Should we have the city of Quincy have nonpartisan elections?
You know, to me, I don't think it makes a difference. You know, as a school board member, you run as a nonpartisan. When I ran for the county board, I ran as a Republican. I'm proud that I'm a conservative Republican. But anybody can look at our school board, and I think you can see, okay, who are the conservative people and who are the liberal people? Does it make a difference? I think the school board's a great example in the 6 years I've been on there, that we have people that are on that board that are truly focused on what's the best thing for students and for the staff to make Quincy public education the best that it can be. Okay? We have to take those approaches, and with everything that we do, I think that's part of that leadership.
That's actually one reason why I am committed to running for mayor. No, I don't think we need partisan politics in city government. And I was pretty disappointed with our city council when they voted to not put that issue on the ballot in November. It's not the decision of 14 people, it's the decision of the voters. So I would be in favor of getting rid of partisan politics, but I also think that voters get a choice and get a voice in that. So I think it should be on the ballot, and I think voters should decide that ultimately. I'd also be in favor of a smaller government, which is strange for a Democrat to say. Usually that's the Republicans who say that. But I think we could do with a smaller government and a nonpartisan government.
Do you believe in the Second Amendment?
Yes. I do, and I support it. Yes.
Absolutely.
How will you
Pay for your riverfront plans?
Again, I think we need to take a look at the phases and what the specific costs are. I have not seen the cost estimates for the first phase of what's being proposed. My understanding is the Park District's looking at doing something with that amphitheater or the theater in Lincoln Park. But I also think we can't totally rely on the Park District, the county, the city to fund that. We're going to need, just like the Klingner Trail, they formed a foundation to raise money so we can continue to build out that trail. We need to do something. I don't know if that's the solution to help fund the riverfront, or if there's a different private partner on different aspects that they're going to want to buy in and run. but we can't expect government to do, to be the sole funder.
So I would like to actually answer, how would we pay for anything? So here's my philosophy on how do we pay for anything. Three-step process. The first is accountability. What have we done in the past? How did it work or didn't it work? What is available to us? And the second is responsibility. Is this the responsibility of the city to pay for XYZ, whatever the project is? Is it the city's responsibility? Is there a policy? Is there a mechanism behind that? Who's responsible? And then third, it's opportunity. What opportunities can we bring to the table through grants, through partnerships, through working with our state legislators? So we need to look at, for anything that we need to worry about for how do we pay for this? How are we going to pay for this? First it's accountability, then it's responsibility, and then it's opportunity. Getting the right people to the table, making sure you do a thorough examination of all of the options, and coming up with the best answer that you have with the people in front of you.
Some see the position of mayor as a management job versus governing. How would you approach the job?
Again, my philosophy is twofold. I do think there's management and governing to the job, but we've got long-time employees who fix the streets, keep the streets clean, pick up our garbage, make sure that our drinking water is safe. So again, I see it twofold. I do see a strong management, a strong leadership position, but then I also do believe fully in the ambassadorship and the salespersonship for Quincy, and making sure that we are visible and we are out there and we are communicating correctly. I think it's twofold.
It's beyond being the city administrator. It is the top city administrator role, but the job is much bigger. As good as the department heads are, you have to work with the city council on any decision that's going to spend money. You need a leader with a vision and to get the department heads to follow through that so you can get the big items on your agenda completed. On top of that, as I said earlier, we also have to represent all aspects of Quincy, the people, the businesses, and we've got to try to help each of them grow and prosper. The 45 by 30 is great, but are we shooting too low? Should we shoot towards 60,000? We've got to start with the first 300, 500 people, and once we know that that's working, we're going to raise the bar and say we're going to bring in more people, and that's going to help with everything else that we're talking about tonight.
How would you prevent another mess like what happened at the Eagle's Nest?
That's for me. Rajah, I think, again, the city inspections, the city codes, as I reviewed them, are clear with what's acceptable and what's not acceptable. And I'm actually surprised that the Eagle Nest was able to operate as long as they did before they got shut down, learning of the various violations that they've been having the residents live in. So I think we need probably more inspections to go out. That's why I would ask the aldermen as mayor to say, they know their wards better than anybody. Tell me, where are the problem areas, the problem structures in your ward, and let's assign the inspector to go out and take a look at that. Again, if you start shutting down all the unfit housing in the community, we're going to have a ton of homeless people. We're going to, before we really push that, we need to build other housing facilities so we have places for these people to go.
So my question would be, if the code already says that older people are supposed to tell the city council or tell the city inspector's office which ones to inspect, how did that situation happen? So there's a group in Quincy that is working toward a rental inspection program. What they've done is they've done a lot of research on cities our size, cities in our area. A lot of cities have a rental inspection program. Initially, the first plan that was brought up met with some resistance, so I think there's work to do there, but I don't think that idea should just be put to the wayside. I think there's some initiative there, and I think that we do need to hold are unscrupulous landlords accountable. We have great landlords in Quincy, and we have ones that skirt the rules, and we've had these situations. So the Eagle's Nest, where was the elder person who was supposed to turn that in? It didn't happen. So, how do we move forward? Do we have an inspection program that involves many different aspects? In fact, the Quincy Public Schools is on board with requesting a rental inspection program. So a lot of people really want this to happen. It just has to happen correctly. It has to make sense to people who are good landlords, but it also has to hold unscrupulous landlords accountable.
Can I have clarification?
Yes.
There's no code that says the aldermen have that responsibility. The code says the building has to be functional with these issues. My point is, I want to ask the aldermen to tell me where are the problem facilities, but I just wanted to clarify because it's not in the code that says it's the alderman's responsibility to do that.
This comes from the First Baptist Church Facebook page. The writer says, I am a disabled individual in the winter. I am trapped inside my home because the sidewalks are covered with snow and ice. Can we come up with a plan to solve this problem? Let's see.
I lost track, but I'll answer. So, I think that we've got to pay attention, and we've got to make sure that we have good snow removal and good, salting and icing. But our central services is down from many years ago. We have a lack of manpower in central services, and I think it's something for the city to pay attention to and to collect information like that. If someone is needing a service, that has to be communicated to the right people in the city to get out there. Also, I would, offer up, there are a lot of service agencies in town that would take that on as a project as well. So is that, I would work with that person and say, how can we get this problem solved on a one-on-one basis and make sure that, could the city respond to it? Maybe could a church respond to it? Could a service organization respond to it? But that's a problem that, people need to be able and feel comfortable enough to say, hey, I need help and this is my issue and how can we fix it? So that's a good question.
It's absolutely a case that happens more than just a few people in town. When the schools built the new buildings, we made sidewalks, but our maintenance guy said, instead of putting in the minimum width sidewalk, can you please build, and I can't remember if it's a 4-foot wide sidewalk or whatever the dimensions are. We said, well, why? Well, because they're going to take their snow equipment and clear the sidewalks. And it'd be one trip down and it's clear. I think the medical facilities, the hospital, the medical group, they clear their sidewalks. The schools do, but there's very few other people that do. And matter of fact, even though the city requires new development to have sidewalks, the crews that clean the streets, what do they do on the corners? They plow up on the handicap ramp. So God forbid, if you're a handicap and you got part of the sidewalk cleared, you're not going to be able to climb that mound to cross the street. So we got to be smart with how we're cleaning the streets. It's a simple task, right? Yes, we're in a hurry because we want to clean the streets so people can get back to work, go to school, function. But we've got to have some other improvements to make life easier for people. Even the kids that walk to school, ride a bike, whatever. The sidewalks aren't clear. It's like, why have sidewalks? So it's something that we need to look for ways of improving.
This person writes, as an African American in this community, what opportunities do I have? How can I get involved?
From like just activities or work-wise?
The person didn't say, so you could go wherever.
Okay. What?
Civically, in the city government, and doing those kinds of
Okay. You know what? You can run for office, and I can show you how to fill out a petition. You want to run to be an alderman, you want to run, you can't do the mayor deal, you have to wait 4 years. You want to run for county board, you want to run for school board. Get involved. Now, before that, you don't want to actually run as a political office. There's different committees. There's commissions at the city that you can ask the mayor to get appointed to. The school district has all sorts of committees, and they're looking for people to participate. We've got a curriculum committee, a building and grounds, discipline committees. There's all sorts of committees, I think, in most organizations that are available. And honestly, sometimes we're struggling because we don't know who to ask. So I would encourage you, and anybody that's interested in that kind of service, to contact those organizations and put your name in. And you want to be careful how many times you say yes. So
I think this is a really good example of what I was talking about earlier, that we have hidden populations and hidden procedures in town that appear to exclude people from positions or from commissions or from the process, quite frankly. So opening up City Hall and opening up opportunity is key through a variety of different touch points. And I think building relationships and making people aware of what is available, but also I think there needs to be a key point to outreach. I think we can't just say, come in and we'll put you on some committee. I think it's imperative that people who are leading this city do find the hidden populations, invite them to the table and say, how can we come to you? What is your access point? And how can we help you be engaged and be a participant? So I would call a commission together or just even have a lunch and say, hey, what are your ideas? How would you like to come in and do something with the city if that's something that you're interested in? I'd also like to see some sort of youth commission in City Hall. So we've got a lot of administrators, we've got a lot of people working there, but I'd love to see younger people have earlier access and younger people from across the city to come in and participate and learn and understand how the process works and what opportunities are available.
I'm going to combine these two questions for time purposes because we are about 7 minutes away from ending, so I'm going to combine these. And we'll start with Nora to answer this. But what are your plans for the African American community? How can we keep our youth here and give them opportunities? And then the other person, it's kind of related, says, what is your view on helping small minority businesses grow?
So I was really pleased to see Greta released a Black-owned business list recently, and awareness and visibility is key. Representation is key as well. So how would I approach an inclusion piece, if that's the spirit of the question? First and foremost, it's gathering information and talking with people. I had a lunch recently with some very prominent leaders in the African American community, and I just listened and I learned a lot. And I think that in order to move forward and really satisfy the spirit of inclusion and to really get people to the table, first we have to listen and say, what would you like? What do you see in our community? How can we bring groups together and bring coalitions together? So I would not presume to know. I'd rather hear how people would want to engage and be involved as well, even with younger populations and older populations too.
I look at that, and in trying to be inclusive in that, I don't know that I want to segregate just what does the young Black person want. I looking at what does the entrepreneurial spirit in the population of the youth want, and what are the tools. We have the SPUR chapter, we've got Greta, we've got the Chamber of Commerce that can all help individuals with business plans to get established. Does somebody want to open up a restaurant? Do they want to open up a plumbing shop? What type, or a retail store? We have tremendous needs for all of those types of businesses. And I think there's so many resources available for whoever's thinking about starting a business in this community that we probably need to get a focal point where you could call or what website to go to start asking your questions and then to follow up specifically with them. But I think, again, I don't know that we need to offer unique services to one part of the population as much as let's offer services to help somebody start a business. Let's have similar services for those people that want to expand the business, grow the business. Let's keep it generic.
I'm going to combine these two questions also because they're related, just a little slightly different angles. The first question is, do you support House Bill 3653 Police Reform Bill? And the second question is, how do you plan to support the Quincy Police Department deal with the new reform bill?
Yeah, great question. Thank you. Overall, there's issues with the House Bill 3653. The way it's been signed, no, I can't support it. We need to make some changes by having the Illinois Congress make changes with what they call trail amendments to make it work for Quincy and communities like our size throughout the state. The helping support the police, and I put public safety, so police, fire, we have to work with them. And I already met with both departments and their unions. I'm pro public safety, but I told them, don't hear that as when I become mayor, you're going to put down a piece of paper with all your wish list and you're going to expect me to rubber stamp it. I had that conversation. I said, no, we're going to have to be fiscally responsible, know what we can afford, what are your priorities, and then we're going to pull the package together. But Quincy will remain a safe place to live, work, and to enjoy life. And we're going to have strong police and strong fire protection throughout this community as I serve you as mayor.
I think this opens up a question that was asked earlier about the teeth of the Human Rights Commission. So I can explain a little bit about how a complaint comes into the Human Rights Commission. And I think this is where the commission itself is examining the process and trying to figure out how to do it better. So right now, if there is a human rights violation in Quincy, it is up to the victim of that violation to find out when the Human Rights Commission meets, to go to the meeting of the Human Rights Commission, to stand before the group, explain what happened, file a report of sorts, if it's just a memo or a verbal report, to that commission. And right now, the commission basically passes that information along to the proper agency, be it the police department, be it if it's a criminal matter, or perhaps a social service agency if that's the route to take. So what I think is going on is, as the Human Rights Commission is saying, we want more teeth, we've actually have legislation that is providing more clear guidance. We are going to have to look at trailer amendments because there are things in that bill that either have already happened in Quincy or that, people are getting very, very nervous about some different amendments or some different parts of that bill. But the spirit of it overall is to make improvements and make reform. The Human Rights Commission knows that. I think they want to address those issues. And I think there's a real opportunity here to work with our Quincy Police Department, our Human Rights Commission, and anyone else who's interested and wants to be involved to come and say, how can we work together and how can we work this out under the guise of what the state is telling us that we have to do?
We are now at the 7:30 mark, so I would like to have you each do closing statements and any rebuttals that you would like to do or say based on the past hour and a half. So we will start with Nora, and you have 2 minutes for your closing statement, and then we'll go to Mike.
Okay.